I'm very excited to talk about this next person, okay? I've been wanting to talk about her for a while, and finally we get the chance to do so, okay? And this person that I am completely geeked out to talk about is Storme DeLaverie, okay? American woman, known as the butch lesbian whose scuffle with the police sparked and ignited the Stonewall Uprising. You heard me correctly. The scuffle that she had with the police. So I don't know how many of you know the story, okay? I'm going to give you the abridged version, okay? Um, the Stonewall Inn, which was a relatively safe haven for gays and lesbians, had been raided. It was like raided all the time, okay? Normally there's a warning and adjustments are made, people leave, what have you, what have you. But on this particular night, no warning was given, okay? The police come in, everybody's still there, nobody's allowed to leave, okay? They start taking people out into police cars. One individual, okay, is scuffling with the police on the way to the police car. At a certain point, this person gets smacked in the head, okay, just smacked in the head. I mean, it's a rough journey from the Stonewall Inn to the police car, okay? And at one point, this person looks around and says something to the effect of, "Why aren't you doing something?" Okay? Now, up until now, I did not know the name of that person. And a lot of retelling of the story, the name of the person is not shared, not given. And I always thought it was because nobody knew, right? So I'm researching random different things, and I come across Storme, okay? Now, according to Storme and according to eyewitnesses, she was that person, okay? She was the person who was scuffling with the police as they were taking her to a police car. She was the one who said, "Why aren't you doing anything?" Thereby igniting the Stonewall Uprising. Okay? And I just realized I got ahead of myself. There's stuff in between the intro and Stonewall. Okay, so let's back up. Let's back up. So Storme was born to a white father and a black mother, and she was light enough that she could pass as a white person. Okay. Now, Storme realizes somewhere around the age of 18 that she's a lesbian. Yeah, yeah. From 1955 to 1969, she tours with the Black Theater Circuit as the MC and only drag king of the Jewel Box Revue, North America's first racially integrated drag review. She also performed and hosted at the Apollo Theater and Radio City Music Hall to mixed race audiences, which, considering the time, was very rare because of racial segregation in the United States. Despite that, here she is hosting and emceeing to mixed audiences. Okay. Yeah. She also worked as a bouncer, a bodyguard, and a volunteer street patrol worker. Okay. So at the time, there were very few drag kings performing. Her unique drag style and subversive performances became celebrated, influential, and are now known to have set historic precedent. Okay? She inspired other lesbians to adopt what had formerly been considered men's clothing or streetwear. Okay? This is what I'm finding as I'm doing all this research. Early lesbians would adopt menswear. Okay? Almost a visual defiance of the gender norms. Okay? And she inspired other lesbians to follow suit. She's now considered to have been an influence on gender non-conforming women's fashions decades before unisex styles became accepted. Okay? When I hear the term gender non-conforming women's fashions, I always, always, always think of Grace Jones and even David Bowie. Their clothing, their makeup, their hair, I've said this before, androgynous. In the 1980s and the 1990s, she worked as the bouncer for several lesbian bars in New York. Okay? From 1998 to 2000, she was the chief security ambassador and vice president of the Stonewall Veterans Association. She also organized and performed at benefits for battered women and children. In 2019, she was one of the inaugural 50 American pioneers, trailblazers, and heroes inducted on the National LGBTQ Wall of Honor within the Stonewall National Monument in New York. Okay? Now, for decades, she served the community as a volunteer street patrol worker, and she was considered the guardian of lesbians in the village. So we end where we started, with the Stonewall riots. Okay. Now, speaking on the Stonewall riots, Storme says that it was a rebellion. It was an uprising. It was a civil rights disobedience. It was no damn riot. Okay? Now, we talked about the story of how the riots began, right? We know that there was an unnamed person who had been arrested, handcuffed, and roughly escorted from the door of the Stonewall Inn to the police wagon, thus sparking the Stonewall riot. Well, many eyewitnesses and Storme herself says that Storme was the person being escorted to the police wagon. Okay? It said that she is the one who was hit on the head with a baton and was bleeding from the head when they asked, "Why don't you guys do something?" It was at that moment that the scene became explosive. Some have referred to Storme as the gay community's Rosa Parks. Some even say that she's the one who threw the first punch, not Martha P. Johnson. Whether or not Storme was the woman who fought her way out of the police wagon, all accounts agree that she was one of the several butch lesbians who fought back against the police during the uprising. She was one of those black and brown lesbians, black and brown trans women who fought for your right to party for 4 days. Yeah, I'm still bitter. Storme passed away in her sleep on May 24th, 2014, at the age of 91. This woman, Storme, has been protecting the LGBTQIA+ community almost from the second that she realized that she was a lesbian.